Yes. So I'm going to start again. So this is the Rails 7 upgrade sync. The first call is the kickoff to try to understand what are the requirements from the team to roll out this upgrade, which is the timeline that would be fit the best the team and also fit like delivery with the current duties that we have and the risk that we see associated with that, and understanding which more or less is the requirement coming from if there is any GitLab requirement for when we need to roll out this one, or if we can push it to a different milestone, and which are the pieces of work that are still like standing and that needs to be completed before rolling this out. I don't know, Sean, if you want to start to give us a brief overview of where this is at, and then I can start with some question coming from delivery and also taking question from other people from the
yeah, sure. So in fact, the upgrade project has actually been going on for some time, and it's been more or less for some time. There was no one directing it. There was several staff engineers, some of whom are on this call, basically doing the whole project. And then at some point, Tim Zellman asked, can I come in and help with any management that might be required? So I might actually just ask some of the engineers on the call. I think that we're basically, if I go to that checklist that you commented on most recently, Igor, I think that from a technical side, we are fairly close or are ready to deliver. Can anyone add to that?
Yeah, I would say that we are ready. Maybe the most important part is the checklist is like testing, exploratory testing, that maybe a smaller version of it, just to make sure that we didn't break anything.
Igor, you were involved with the Rails 6.0 upgrade, and what was the did we just release the gems then, or did we do some manual? We did some manual effort as well.
No, we just released. We just released it, but we shouldn't have done it this way. Yeah, okay. This way we should do it more careful.
I see. Okay. And then if I look at the Ruby 3.0 upgrade, that's kind of at the other end of the scale, where there was actually quite a large effort of reaching out to engineering managers, asking teams to do manual testing. Perhaps we can find something in between of those two. I don't know if we're going to need quite as much when it's a Rails upgrade versus the Ruby upgrade, but again, if anyone on the call wants to add something to that.
Honestly, I'm maybe I should pin Grant, test engineer. Yeah, I just wonder what he thinks about it. So I think we should ask for quality perspective yeah, some exploratory testing should be done, but maybe not on such a large scale as we did for Ruby 3, because for Ruby 3 it was like company-wide initiative, and it's like a lot of effort.
I think also one issue with like exploratory testing is like your instinct as a developer or someone who wants to test something would be like to test the most obvious use cases, right? Or the most the most critical ones, like creating an issue for our team or something like that. And for these things, these are already actually covered by our feature specs, QA tests, and like it's kind of redundant. And the problems that actually happen due to Rails upgrades are more like edge cases, and I don't know if it will ever be like caught by exploratory testing, right? So I'm not sure if it's worth it.
Yeah, and just a quick note regarding the gradual rollout. Maybe like gradual rollout will be our some type of exploratory testing. Yeah, we can roll out it on the staging, for example, on Canary, and see whether we have some issues, and then roll it back. I think with this approach, yeah, we will have more chances that we could catch some bugs. Yeah.
So I wanted to add on this, and I want to say that the way we rolled out the Ruby 3 upgrade is very intensive in terms of engineering resource needed, and it is something that we should avoid as much as possible. So we're talking about at any time at least 4 or 5 engineers following the sun on this thing for 3 days. With this had the effect of slowing down MTTP for everyone else at the company, so nothing was shipped. We had to rush a security release because we had the security release the week before, and we risked out not doing that, and it was an extremely stressful moment. So we should avoid this type of thing. So I will try to address the things in the opposite, which is, do we think that is safe to roll back the merge request that bumps the Rails gem from 6 to 7? Because if so, and it should be, we should consider rolling this when it's time, monitoring, and keeping the rollback window open for a bit longer. Because basically when we run post-deployment migration, we kind of mark the point in time where we cannot go back, right? So we could do something more like, on day X, we're gonna run post-deployment migration and say merge the Ruby 7, Rails 7, sorry, upgrade, and the next deployment, or the one after that, will start rolling this thing out. And we monitor what is happening, and if something is clearly related to Rails 7, we revert and roll back, revert, and or so try to address the things fixing forward as we prefer. It really depends on how big is the problem.
With the Ruby 3 upgrade, so I completely hear what you're saying there, Alicia. It's yeah, we don't want to kind of have to go through that every time we're doing a version bump, actually. But what, in retrospective, was that necessary? I mean, did we need to kind of put that much effort into it? Were there problems that came up during the rollout that
we found only an issue, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, couple, but of the same problem.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess, you know, so I mean, you know, right after this, there'll be whenever this goes in fact, it's a blocker for the Ruby 3.2 upgrade. And so, you know, and then possibly there'll be, well, most likely the Rails 7.1 will be released soon, and so probably then we'll do the Rails 7.1 upgrade, you know. So you know, we're probably going to have a cycle of, well, at least 3 major changes to the Ruby system. One question about the Rails upgrade, if we, I mean, I guess we've got like the Rails gems and then whatever the dependency gems need to be updated, but maybe this has already been done, but could we, you know, update all of the dependencies that are non-Rails ahead of time and just put them in through regular merge requests where possible, where the versions line up? Is that something that would, because that would then lower the whole surface area, right?
Yeah, we already did. So
Okay,
the only thing left is the Rails thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Just a question for Alessio or delivery. Like, I remember with our previous upgrades, we did a separate auto deploy that only contained this, the Rails upgrade MR. Is that something that's feasible or too much work to do? Is that?
So I think that if we want to have a special process for this, we should set this as the special auto deploy with only the change as the maximum level of involvement from how we can change from the regular process. So that one I think is still doable. I want to just for awareness. So we're talking about. So what I want to say is that if everything goes smoothly, we just had a lot of manual work and we're kind of losing a couple of hours here and there to get things back in motion. So there is a lot of extra work at the end to make sure that by re-enabling the regular process, we are not inadvertently rolling back the Rails 7 migration, because it's a possibility. So we need to pay extra care around this. I want to say, is there a way to handle this at CI level, like we were doing for the Ruby tree? So being able to run pipeline both on Rails 7 and Rails 6 for a period of time, and then deciding it's time to switch by default to the new one, because it may help us on catching things ahead of time, be more confident that the new things that we are doing are still compatible in both ways, and so maybe just rolling with a regular deployment.
So Alessio, I'm not sure if I completely follow that, but by that, do you mean we've got the Rails 7 feature branch going, and we just keep merging into that and running pipelines against it? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is something like, as an example, in gem file, you can have groups.
Yes.
Right. So I don't know if it's possible, but maybe can we have something like the regular group is with the Rails 7, but then you can just do bundle install and say Rails 7 group or something like this, testing Rails 7, and this will switch the gem file. So it will install Rails 7 instead of Rails 6, and then you basically you have the same test suite that is running with the regular image and the one that has the new dependencies. I don't know how much code changes there, if you're just talking about bumping dependency, or if there are actual Ruby code that changes. But if this is possible, then we kinds of boost our confidence in what we're doing. So I'm thinking about the Rails, the Ruby tree as an example. We started changing the CI images before merging the change in Omnibus and CNG to actually build the production images on Ruby 3, right? So we were already running pipelines on CI on Ruby 3 and Ruby 7 and Ruby 2.7 for a long time, just to say, okay, CI is running, CI is working. We are confident that the changes works on both Ruby engine. And so this is what I'm thinking. Maybe we can, if possible, have the same thing for Rails.
Yeah, it's not as easy to do this because of the bunch of code changes needed. But for the current MR, we're like rebasing it on master and running CI pipeline, so it should be similar. I don't know if we're running the package job, which is like optional, I think, right? But we could do that, right? And like make it rebase regularly, make sure it's always green for, a few days or something, run the package jobs, and I think it should have the same effect as what we're wanting, right?
Okay, thank you. By the way, to answer your question, Sean, about the extra work. So if we want, I think it was Henrik one, whatever.
No,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, if we want to deploy in isolation without going down and manually tuning the process, so just in isolation, we should count for basically it's a full day of manual work from delivery, right? So you mean the release manager begin his shift and just his day is all about making sure this process gets in, the things are merged, the things are deployed, and the next package is not rolling back. So counting the rollout timing and everything, we're looking around 8-12 hour window to make this change. While nothing else can be deployed and no other changes are getting into production. So just to keep numbers.
I would prefer to not go that path.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, as I was saying earlier, we're going to have a number of upgrades coming down the path. I think there's a Golang upgrade coming as well. So we probably need to find another way of doing this that doesn't involve manual interaction.
I mean, this is just like, it's not a lot about manual intervention, but it's like slowing down everything else, right? So this is something that we are actually working delivery, Alessio in particular, working on something that we could in the future use for these kind of use cases of these big upgrades and so on, but it's not something that we have ready now. But is the reason why I also touched in the other point 3 to understand which is the best timeline for these, because before 16.0, it's too much. We have too many breaking changes coming in, and There's going to be too many variables coming in. So probably the best one for us would be 16.2. For a simple reason that 16.1 then has maybe some changes that we need to fix due to 16.0, breaking changes that are coming in that are like a bit unforeseen. But we could make it work in 16.1 if there is like a hard requirement. But before that, it's going to be a bit difficult. And this is also understand what's the timeline for this upgrade that we need to do. I said that you added this, we should deliver it before Ruby 3.2. When is Ruby 3.2 upgrade planned?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Heinrich, do you know the answer to that?
No, I don't.
It's a
I think we
separate
still
project.
have quite a bit of time until the end of life, since we just caught the end of life of Ruby 2.7, right? So
Yeah.
I think we have a bit of leeway.
I think I'm not involved with the Ruby 3.2 project, but we can get some dates. But I think one of the drivers of Ruby 3.2 is it's perceived to have be a big performance bump. So there might be a push in the language itself. So there might be a big push to incorporate that. I don't know. I think it is going to be a fairly big upgrade as well, though. I actually have another question about the Rails upgrade. I think I asked this in an earlier call, but you know, one of the big changes between Rails 6 and 7 was the way the assets were handled. But we're not exposed to that, right? Because we're just going to stick with Webpacker and we're not using anything new. Is that a correct statement? I guess Heinrich, for you, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't change anything with the front end stuff, like how they are compiled or which library we use to compile the JS.
So all those changes in Rails 7 we're just ignoring for the time being.
Yeah, they brought in new features. I mean, you could use, but we didn't change them for now.
That's probably a good idea. We use Webpack.
Yeah, but I think we use our own like configuration and setup stuff. We don't really use the Rails thing. I forgot, but yeah.
Okay.
But I know we still use sprockets, and it's a combination of different stuff. One for JS and the other for CSS stuff. I remember.
Okay, so to answer that question about Ruby 3.2, I guess we need to engage with that team. So to answer your question, Mikhail, I think from my perspective, it's you know, we release it when we're ready, and the only blocker or the only dependency is the Ruby 3.2 upgrade, whenever that's going to be. So if it makes sense to delay it a couple of milestones, I think that's fine.
I mean, the first feasible one would be at the best 16.1. The best one for us would be 16.2.
Yeah, I mean, I guess having the branch out there for so long and having to rebase it constantly, you know, will be a bit of an annoyance, I guess.
I understand.
So you're saying 16.0 is a no-go because of the, you know, it's a major version, right? What if we make it 15.11?
15.11 is this one running now, and I'm not sure that all the changes coming in, they're going to be breaking changes. Then how they're going to work with the Rails 7. So we add a lot of uncertainty there as well.
Do you mean the breaking changes in 16.0 or like the breaking Rails changes? Or...
The breaking changes in 16.0 that are working with Rails 6. Then we add another variable on top of that. I'm not really sure how this is gonna pan out risk-wise, but you know, I'm also, Alessio, feel free to pitch in if you see this is feasible.
Yeah, I was going to say more or less the same thing, and I will also give another thing to think about, which is that this type of upgrade is likely going to introduce extra complexity on all the security releases and batch releases for 3 months. Because basically, we will end up developing fixes for Rails 7, assuming even if they cleanly backport to the old stable branches, they may not behave the same, right? So also this is kind of timing is important here, and around a major release, often we see more patch requests, more so there is a kind of an increase in terms of number of backports and things like that. So if we can move after, it's kind of on, as Michael was saying, on 16.2, we already are supporting 2.1.0. Yes, so it's kind of the everything is more. I think it's after the
after 16.2,
yeah,
because we have, because if we have 3 backports, they're going to go back to 16. Yeah.
And another thing that I wanted to mention, because we were briefly touching on Ruby 3.2, I think the biggest pain point for the 3.0 upgrade was the breaking changes, which I don't think there are in 3.2, right? Because it's not a measure. So there may be some, say there are optimization, maybe things are changing, but it should be more, the upgrade should be more streamlined.
And one note regarding Ruby 3.2, I believe there are no hard requirements. Yeah, that for example Ruby 3.2 depends on Rails 7 or Rails 7.1. It's mostly like done to do things like gradually. Yeah, we performed Ruby 3 update. Now we want like Rails 7. Yeah, we have our window to perform Rails 7 upgrade. There were some concerns about breaking changes. Some bugs that was fixed either in Rails 7 or Rails 7.1 that would make Ruby 3.2 upgrade smoother, yeah, more safer. But it's not like a hard requirement. So so maybe if, for example, we can do it in 16.1, for example, we can like tentatively schedule on 16.1 and then postpone it if, for example, if we see a huge load of patch requests and bug fixes. Yeah, just a suggestion.
Just another variable. Rails 7.1 is in pre-release. It could be released. I mean, sometimes they take a while to release their releases, but they might actually release it soon. And would we pick that up if we're going to be going after 16.2? Would we consider just going directly to 7.1? No.
We'd better do it like Rails 7, then
Yeah.
Rails 7.1. One exception, if, for example, the version, like the minor version of Rails is released, like 7.0.5 is released, then it would be great.
Okay.
And one note regarding the requirements for upgrade. I remember one team, maybe Henrik can help me. The package team, were relying on the features from Rails 7, and they wanted to introduce like a patch in our current version in order to support some feature from Rails 7. So they were really enthusiastic about Rails 7 upgrade.
Yeah, it's the CI team that's waiting on the upgrade for some feature.
Okay.
So yeah, I could ask Marius. I think it was Marius that mentioned to me about their team needing the upgrade or something, but I could tell him if an extra, 2-3 months is okay, or I don't know what we could do if not, right? But
I can also reach out to them if that helps. Who should I speak to?
Sure. Marius Bobbin.
Okay.
They needed some preloading stuff that they were building.
I have a question.
Yes.
So are we talking about only Ruby merge requests, only targeting GitLab, or is there also CNG changes, omnibus changes, or no?
Can you repeat the question, Matthew?
I want to know the amount of merge requests involved here, if this is just a change for the Ruby application, or if there's some extra merge requests on top of the packagers, so omnibus, CNG, and things like that.
Yeah, it's just the main Ruby GitLab or GitLab project. Usually we also upgrade the Gitly Ruby repo to use the same active support version to save on package size, stuff like that, but it's not like a hard necessity.
Because I was going to I'll just put a proposal here. So we have time, so we can think about it. So we may consider to kind of feel, if we want to feel more confident in what we are doing, because you say you keep rebasing this thing, so you kind of have a sense of the healthy of your branch, right? So because as Michele said, we are working on the idea of having experimental packages, but we will not have those in the near future. But maybe we can consider selecting some time zone, some time candidates to redeploy this, as just knowing that the next package will roll out with Rails 7, and then the one after that will go back to Rails 6. So kind of giving you a window in staging then production to just see with real traffic, instead of just committing to this thing. It's more something like we develop a simple process to have this thing done, and then you can coordinate with release manager. Say, oh, there's no extra work for today. Everything looks quiet. I can give you a time window to run with this, and maybe we give you just, in theory, this can give you 2 to 4 hours of production traffic with your changes. But again, we need to be extra sure that then we can run, it can run in parallel with a Rails 6 deployment, because you have Canary and main stage and all these things, and also knowing that the next deployment will revert back to Ruby 6. Think about it. I'm just saying this could be an option, because it's just one merge request, and this is something that if we have maintainers that are approving the current state of the merge request and say, this could be merged, we are just not merging because it's not the right time.
It sounds super interesting, yeah, to me. Just one suggestion, maybe if it's possible to have this proposal written, yeah, in the epic, yeah, that would be great. And yes, or maybe with some links, because yeah, I'm hearing about it like the first time, but sounds super interesting, and yeah, that would allow us to experiment with it.
It is the first time, so
it is the first time it's being said. So yeah.
Okay, so we're kind of almost at time, but just to recap. So when we say 16.2, what do we mean by that? Do we mean with everything else that's going 16.2, or some point inside of 16.2?
Before the 16.2 release.
Okay.
So it means that between June 22nd and July 22nd.
Likely after the security release. So will be first week of July.
Yeah. So a lot of people have been asking me about the release date. Is it possible we can announce that as a tentative release date, the first week of July?
Sounds good to me. I mean, tentative.
Tentative.
It means .com running on Rails 7. Release date will be for self-managed. We go with the normal release cycle, that is July 22nd. So don't know what are you meaning with the release date?
Yeah, so for .com.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna write it. So tentative is date SAS. We said first week in July.
Yes.
And then self-managed goes with 16.2 packages.
Yeah. That is 22nd of July.
Okay. Okay, I think that sounds, for me, that sounds fine. I'll just circle back though and check with the Ruby 3 team, whoever's doing 3.2. And yeah, I guess we can just continue to correspond on, is the Epic or the channel okay to correspond on with this? Look at the Rails 7 Slack channel. Okay,
sounds good. So as action items, if we have a couple of minutes, do we want to set these another, I mean, we are still far, but probably another meeting like this in 4 weeks to understand if we are in sync would be probably, and then we adjust the cadence.
Yes.
Depending on the need.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Someone need to find out the timelines for Ruby 3 upgrade. And then We spoke about syncing with Grant from QA to understand if the test suite they want to run for exploratory testing, to which extent needs to be run or how they want to do that. And reach out to Marius. I didn't pick up his family name to understand the timeline for the CI feature that the CI team needs to release. Sean, you already put your name there. And yeah, Alessia is coming up with a proposal for deploy this change in how to deploy on the Epic, I guess.
Igor, would you like to reach out to Grant?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Perfect.
So yeah, so approximately a month for the next call. This
Yeah,
time's good, actually.
I would
Yeah.
say approximately a month, since we don't have anything that is like immediately now, but we still not to understand, you know, things our side and your side. I would say I'm gonna set it immediately after this one.
Okay. Okay, great. I think we've done well. Productive meeting. I was actually hoping we'd release it earlier, but of course I completely understand, particularly the security backports. That's definitely a challenge. So yeah, just timing with the major release.
Perfect. Then speak to you soon. Thank
Thanks.
you again.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.